It is 4 o'clock. Please stand to sing O Canada. Please be seated. We'll begin with the roll call. Vicki, please.
Mayor Sue Patterson,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Warren Dicker,
Present.
Councillor Harold Fleet,
Present.
Councillor Dave Hawking,
Present.
Councillor Carol Hudson,
Present.
Councillor Brandon Cable will be late, Councillor Susan Sacco.
Present.
Thank you, Vicki. So we'll begin with our land acknowledgement. As we work toward reconciliation with Indigenous people, we begin our meeting today by respectfully acknowledging that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, and further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. So welcome to our regular council meeting for Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. Good afternoon, council, staff, guests, the viewing public, and the media. Council, does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest or a conflict of interest? There will be one from Councillor Cable when he does arrive, so I will ask him at that time to declare. And of course, council, if one conflict does arise during the meeting, you may declare it then. Item 5 on the agenda is additions or deletions. We do not have any this afternoon. Item 6 is delegations. We have one delegation this afternoon. It is the Hanover Barons. We have Lori Pegalo, Vice President and Treasurer, and we have Peter Irwin, our coach, and they are here to speak about an extended ice season. Lori, welcome. And if you press the button that has the little person there. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Mayor Patterson and council for allowing us to come today. My name is Lori Pegalo. I've lived in the town of Hanover since the age of 6 when my parents chose to move back to my mom's hometown. One of my first jobs as a teen was working for Parks and Recreation in the Arena Snack Bar, which was when I started watching the Hanover Barons. And although I hate to age myself, that was over 40 years ago. Throughout my life, I've been involved in many events and organizations in Hanover, serving on those committees and boards with some of the present council members. This includes serving on minor ball executive, minor hockey executive, manager and trainer for minor hockey teams when my kids played, Hanover and District Hospital Board of Directors, the Ladies Rec Volleyball Executive since the league formed 30 years ago, and I was the first president of that organization. I've been involved with the Last Blast in the Barn, Hockeyville Night in Hanover, the Olympic Torch Run Committee, and I was on the fundraising committee for the new arena and co-chair of our opening festivities in 2010. As part of the arena fundraising, my husband and I purchased seats with our names on them at Center Ice, beside a seat with my dad's name, in memory of our many exciting times watching our children play hockey here and watching the Hanover Barons. In 2014, I was chair of Homecoming and was named Citizen of the Year. My town, my passion. I am currently involved with the Hanover Fall Festival Market Committee and am both vice president and treasurer of the Hanover Barons. Imagine my delight when both of these were mentioned in the mayor's top 10 of 2022. The Barons thank the town and appreciate all the support we have received in our almost 60 years in Hanover. And as I said, I've been a fan of the Barons for over 40 years and have been involved in the organization for 17 years, starting when my son played for them. I have seen the excitement of winning the All Ontarios to the disappointment of being put out in the first round of playoffs. Unfortunately, even before COVID, our organization was struggling. However, our executive, coaching staff, GM, director of hockey operations, and players have worked very hard. And last year, we finished first in our division. We made it to Game 7 of the division finals. I personally spend 10 hours per week on Barons-related activities during regular season, and it's safe to say it more than doubles during playoffs. Our coaching staff, Doho and GM, dedicate more. While we cannot know where we will be in this year's playoffs, it's looking promising for another good playoff run. I remember the excitement of the All Ontario playoffs when the old barn was literally filled to the rafters while fans tried to watch the game. I remember coming to the arena 3 hours before the puck drop to secure my favorite spot in the stands. Last year, we filled the arena to capacity for each of our playoff games, which is over 1,000 fans per game. And it brought back many memories of the Barons past. We gave a donation to the Lions Club as we had to call on their assistance of their members to help us out since our executive was stretched to the limits. In addition, a few members of council volunteered to help us at our gates, which we were so grateful for their support. When it was all said and done, I texted one of the executive members and said I was sad we lost, but I was so tired. And she replied, yes, but I'd do it again in a heartbeat, as we all would. That is our dedication and passion for the Hanover Barons team. We work very closely with the arena staff to ensure that when we were getting these capacity crowds, we had enough security, which we hired from outside our organization, executive and volunteers to ensure a great experience. I would like to extend an invitation to all of council to attend a playoff game, to feel the nervous excitement, to experience the thrill of an amazing save by the goalie, and to know the relief of a go-ahead goal and cheer for the home team win. Before the game, tour our dressing room, which is made for our players, to feel the inspiration of getting ready for the game. It's not just a dressing room, it's the Barons room. Our players dedicate hours to practices, the games, and their devotion to the team. They work hard, not only for the Hanover Barons, but as representation for the town of Hanover, our town, our passion. The council's decision not to extend the ice at the last council meeting brought many questions to mind. Where will we play if we are successful in our playoffs? How disgraceful to imagine the Hanover Barons forced out of their hometown. Not only is it embarrassing for our team, but it just doesn't show much support for our players, our fans, our executive, and our sponsors. And where will we play? Will we just have to forfeit our playoffs that we've worked so hard for? What do we tell our team? Walkerton is taking their ice out, as council is well aware. Newstead doesn't even have ice, and we've checked the other centers. Teeswater goes out March 10th, Ayton March 20th, Harrison March 26th, Chesley March 27th, Mildmay March 27th, Palmerston March 31st, Durham April 3rd. I could go on. It appears it will be difficult to find ice for our playoffs. Last year, council extended our ice and agreed to support us through our playoffs. In good faith, we submitted this year's potential playoff schedule on January the 18th. As per our ice contract, playoff ice service requirements beyond May 1st shall be subject to further agreement negotiations prior to April 1st of the respective playoff season. With the implication of needing ice for playoffs after May 1st, I'm confused about bookings on May 2nd and May 5th, which I believe would require ice to break down a week earlier. If we have to find a center with ice outside of town, which would be a smaller venue, financially, this means a loss of revenue to the Hanover Barons on both sides of our balance sheet, at a minimum of $6,000 per game and upwards to $15,000 in lost admission, 50-50 draw, and other revenues per game. This also could mean higher ice costs. When who is then financially responsible for our losses? Will we be compensated for our lost revenues? Has our ice contract been voided, or was it not clear to begin with? Have we just assumed with references in our contract to playoffs after May the 1st that we will have hometown ice? How do we maintain the integrity with our players, their families, our fans, and our sponsors if we are forced from our hometown? We met with staff on February 13th to work towards a solution. We are committed to being flexible to come to a solution. We understand that Laura Christian will be submitting a report later with the results of that meeting, which we can agree to, as this would allow us to have our playoffs at home. The Hanover Barons are the only team in our area to have won the Schmaltz Cup. In the hockey world, the Barons put Hanover on the map. Each year, we go to our local business to ask for sponsorship, and part of our promise is to recognize them at our games. This is not as appealing to sponsors when you may have to play your biggest fan games out of town with potentially smaller crowds. Many of our minor hockey players admire, look up, and respect our Barons. Many of them attend our games, but will be cheated out of being able to attend if we are forced out of town, since they may not be able to get to our games. Considering that our operating budget is well over $100,000 per year, you can see how fans, sponsors, and the playoffs are very important, not only to sustain our team, but to grow it. For us to just go somewhere else, it's not an option. We need ice, and it's not there. The Hanover Barons have had close to 60 years of partnership with the town of Hanover. I understand this is a difficult situation. However, after 60 years of being a Hanover Ice user with a signed ice contract and seeing us have the ability to draw crowds through our playoff games, council can recognize how not playing at home is devastating to our club and our town. The fans come from all over, spend their money here. Players are at the arena 1.5 to 2 hours before puck drop, and in that time, their families, parents, and other fans are going to Tim Hortons for a coffee, slipping to the casino, and shopping at other business in town. It's not just about the game. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. And I am remiss in not introducing the president of the Barons, Mike Myers, and I should have recognized the likeness to your brother. So, Peter, you're going to speak.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. My name is Peter Irwin, and I am the proud head coach of the Hanover Barons. Firstly, thank you all for allowing me a few moments of everyone's time today to discuss the dilemma that the Hanover Barons are faced with today. I would like to speak to you not of contracts or finances, but to give you all some perspective as a former player and now head coach of what I consider to be not only a sports team within the town of Hanover, but something that I would call an institution in the town of Hanover. An almost 60-year undertaking of providing junior C hockey to the residents of not only Hanover, but to the surrounding area as well. This organization has held a very special place in my heart and the residents of Hanover for a very long time. As a player, there was absolutely no better place to play junior hockey. From our undefeated regular season, resulting in a playoff championship in 1984 that started an unprecedented run of 9 straight championships, culminating in an all-Ontario title, the only one ever won by a team from this division in May 1991. And may I add, on May 7th, 1991. Yes, there was ice in the Hanover Arena. I want this organization to achieve these goals again. How refreshing was it last spring to drive around town and once again see Barons jerseys hanging in every store window? Billboards and signs with that ever familiar chant, "Go Barons, go." Even our esteemed Mayor Patterson, in her top 10 things to happen in Hanover in 2022, number 7, and I quote, "The Hanover Barons had an outstanding 21-22 season, making it to the league final for the first time in 12 years. It was also the first time in 20 years the Barons finished in first place in the division. It was great to see the community support and a full barn at the P&H Center in an exciting playoff run." Hey, baby, we're back. Now, as we move forward into 2023, trying to attain another first place finish, we're facing the possibility of not being able to complete our quest for another Pollock Division championship or subsequent Smaltz Cup in our own arena. I'm sorry to say, but to me, this is appalling. How do I, as a coach, try to motivate a group of young men that put forth hours of time and effort to provide this community with the best possible on-ice product they can? If we cannot get council to allow us to complete this task we have set out in our home rink. There's a lot of time and effort goes into these undertakings, not only by our players, coaching staff, and executive, but also by our numerous local businesses and sponsors. Two of our platinum sponsors, Realtor Lori Rich-Slipwell and Jared Ron of Brown Brothers Construction, are both here with us today because they, as business people within this community, find this possibility to be an injustice to our hockey club and the residents of the town of Hanover. An injustice that we may be forced to play our season in an arena in another community. I ask you, please do not let this happen. Again, I would like to thank council for their time today, and I will leave you this. Before every game and after every victory, I lead our team in a chant. I ask, we are. They respond, Barons. I say this to you all. We are not the Durham Barons, the Ayton Barons, the Listowel Barons, or anywhere else we may be forced to play. We are the Hanover Barons. Let's keep it that way. Thank you.
Okay, that's Mike, you didn't want to speak?
Oh, I think they covered it all.
Okay, good. Thank you. Council, any questions for the delegation? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship, and thanks for your presentation. I support having ice available for the Hanover Barons, not just the Barons, Hanover Minor Hockey or Rangat. Any team that advances to the playoffs, we have to support our local teams and players. It seems for years there has been confusion as to ice availability for the Barons. The contract in Barons in the town is too vague. I think it's time to put a date in place. Like if the Barons need the ice from September 12th till May 7th, I think it needs to be put in the contract. And to avoid, a year ago, we sat and went through all of this, if we're going to keep our ice in or not. So anyways, I think as a counselor and a taxpayer of the town of Hanover and as a fan of the Hanover Barons, I think it's very important that we keep our ice in and work with our Home and Garden show. If we have to put boards down, we'll do whatever it takes to make this work. And I just want to thank you for your support to our community and your presentation.
Councillor Hawken.
Thank you, Worship. To the presenters, thank you for your passionate delivery. I support you 100%. I just can't figure out how this confusion arose because I too witnessed the All Ontario with Jimmy Nixon as the coach. So those days are memorable. It takes over our community. The economic offshoots was clearly described by Lori. So I'm not aware of the contract. I apologize for that, but I concur with Harold that we need to make this a priority because we all support the Hanover Barons and we must ensure that as far as you go in your league, the ice is there and you don't have this this dilemma of looking for ice in another community. So we'll make it work for you. And again, thanks for the presentation.
Okay, there will be discussion on further on the agenda under item 8.2. Councillor Sacco.
Hello, as you know, I'm new on council, and so I'm so sad that you had to come here tonight and make a delegation at all. This should never have happened, and I think we need to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So thank you for all of the things you had to say.
Okay, so we'll move on. All right, item 7, council and committee of the whole minutes. Item 7.1 is the regular council meeting minutes from January 16th. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Hocking and Councillor Fleet. You'll remember at that meeting, we had 2 delegations. The first one was MPAC, Municipal Property Assessment Corporation. And we also had an update from Dana Anderson about, she is MHBC Planning. And that was about Bill 23, building more homes faster. And we had quite a few reports and presentation of minutes. So any discussion with those? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Item 7.2 is the special council meeting minutes from January 25th. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Hudson and Councillor Sackle. That evening, we discussed the subdivision agreement for Saugeen Cedar Heights West, and it was passed. Any questions or discussion about those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. 7.3 is the operating and capital budget meeting minutes from January 30th. I need a mover and seconder to put that one on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hocking. And that evening, we approved the 2023 operating and capital budget. You'll remember that one as it went till 10 o'clock that evening. Any further discussion about the budget? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.4 is committee of the whole meeting minutes from February 6th. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Fleet and Councillor Hocking. That evening, we had a delegation from Quick Feet Hockey from Brooke Beniger for the Hanover Home and Garden Show. We also directed staff to meet with Brockton residents or Brockton representatives in order to facilitate an agreement for establishing terms for the provision of water to a Brockton property. We also approved the report to install sidewalk and street lighting on 14th Street, north of 14th Street on 24th Avenue, also known as Gray Road 28. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Item 8 is staff reports, and 8.1 is report PB 07-23. The subject is discharge of firearms bylaw. It's from Ken Campbell, our municipal law enforcement officer. And I need a mover and seconder to put this one on the floor. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Hudson. And Ken is on screen. Ken, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, Your Worship. So on, excuse me, on June 8th, 1964, Council passed Firearms Bylaw 950 to regulate the discharge of firearms within the town of Hanover. Staff completed a review of the town's existing Firearms Bylaw 950, and it was determined that numerous provincial legislative changes have been made since the enactment of that bylaw in 1964, requiring many provisions, including but not limited to definitions and applicable sign provisions. Due to the required number of changes, it was determined it was more practical to repeal the existing discharge of firearms bylaw and enact the proposed discharge of firearms bylaw number 3256-23. The revised bylaw was also shared with the Hanover Police Service, who concurred with the content. There are no direct financial implications associated with this report. The link to strategic plan is number 2, community. And the recommendation is that report PD 07-23, discharge of firearms bylaw be received. And that council pass bylaw number 3256-23 to regulate the discharge of firearms. That's my report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Ken. Council, any questions? Councillor Hudson.
Thanks. Thank you, Your Worship. Just questioning in the, let me see what page this is on. Firearm, explaining a lot of the different types, paintball guns, pellet guns. Do we have people that run paintball companies in Hanover or surrounding area that they would have paintball guns in their possession, that this would be a problem for them?
Ken?
To answer Councillor Hudson, the answer would be no. However, when bylaws are created, we kind of try to do them all encompassing so that in the event that we encounter a complaint that could be associated with those types of things, we have the tools that we can deal with it.
So in the other area where it says the municipality may enter land at any reasonable time for the purpose of carrying out an inspection and did in fact find paintball guns, then there would be a problem. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Ken.
Yes, so that gives us the authority to enter on the land, which we do have under the Municipal Act. So that would allow us to enter the land and conduct any type of investigation associated with that particular complaint.
Anything further, Councillor Hudson?
I'm just not real keen on the wording of that because I just see that there might be people that have perhaps taken that sport up and have those things in their possession. And if somebody complains about it, the authorities go onto their land and find out they have this and then they are fined. Oh, Vicky.
If I could just speak to that, I think what you're wondering is because they have them in their possession, is that going to be an infraction? But the intent of the bylaw is that if they're firing them in an inappropriate manner, then we have the authority to enter onto the premises. And if we receive a complaint, and at that time, we would be able to take action if they're using them in a manner that isn't authorized.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor of PB 0723. That's carried. Thank you. Item 8.2 is report PRC 0323. The subject is extended ice 2023 update. It's from Laura Kristen, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture. And I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. I have Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hawking. Laura, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, Council. So the 2022-23 ice season began in September, and with the last ice rental during the typical ice season is anticipated for that March 19th or as late as that March 26th. That's pending use. Typically, ice removal and the ice plant shutdown would begin after the last ice use. At the February 6, 2023 council meeting, council considered report PRC 0123, and which was a request from Quick Feet Hockey to extend the ice season until May 17th. And this request was declined. Following the meeting, the Hanover Barons noted concern with the possibility of not having access to ice to complete their playoffs. The team is anticipating a deep run in the playoffs, as was experienced last year. For the 2021-22 season, council approved an extension of the ice season until such time that the Barons exited the playoffs. And ice was maintained till approximately April the 18th last year. As noted, ice seasons have historically had ice removed mid to the end March. It is anticipated that minors hockey season will be completed with the final ice date projected between March 19th to 26th. And should there be teams that advance to the OMHA tournament playdowns to be held on the weekends, late March and early April, minor hockey may also have a need for ice time beyond our projected end date. Regular season programmings for ringette and figure skating are planned to be wrapped up by the end of the regular ice date. The Hanover Barons playoff, we've provided a copy of what the playoff plan is. I won't go over all of that. But certainly to highlight that should they advance to the Schmaltz Cup tournament, the tournament would be required to have games played prior to May 9th. On February the 13th, staff met with Barons representatives to discuss their concerns and to try and work out a possible solution. I also wanted to further note that this solution has required a lot of flexibility on behalf of the Barons, the Bruce Grey Catholic District School Board, the Home and Garden Show, and we are very appreciative of everyone's input and understanding and flexibility. So quick feet hockey are still kind of included in this report because they have indicated an interest in ice during April, but that interest is just not firmed up at this point. They are considering ice use in another arena. So we don't have a firm commitment for ice in Hanover, but they have expressed an interest, and we have included some reduced projection of hours in my financial implications for the purposes of this report. The arena floor bookings, as we had discussed in last council meeting, the STEAM Fair hosted by the Bruce Grey Catholic District School Board was originally booked for May 1st and 2nd. The STEAM Fair organizers have confirmed their flexibility to relocate their event to an alternative facility, and they are in the midst of an application process at that venue. The Hanover Home and Garden Show from May 5th to the 9th, we are proposing that during that time if the ice is required for the Barons playoff, that we require some arena floorboards in order to cover the ice. The proposed direction is that the ice season be extended to the end of the Barons' required playoff season, and the ice will be removed immediately upon their exit from the playoffs. The estimated expenses and revenues for an extended ice season as of April 1st have been provided, and we are using a very similar projected expenses per week at $2,944. Additional revenue is very much projected on ice rentals. And in further, the Barons have requested that their not-for-profit subsidy, which is 25%, be continued and applied after April 1st, 2023. So currently in their agreement, it states that that would no longer be applicable. So this is an ask in order to help them for the playoff season. So we've provided the additional estimated revenues. It includes 30 hours of Barons ice time and 40 hours miscellaneous, as well as Quick Feet and other adult user groups. We are anticipating an estimated net, including the cost for the ice covering rental at $5,000, as well as lost revenue, an estimated net of $4,730. The recommendation before you this evening is that report PRC 0323 extended ice request 2023 update be received. That council approve extending the ice as detailed in the report, and that the applicable council-approved subsidy excluding the BBBAS shall apply to current Hanover user groups for the balance of the 2023 season. Any questions?
Thank you, Laura. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree, we need to support the Barons as best we can here. I think, you know, it looks like you've worked through a pretty good arrangement that allows us to honor our contract with the Home and Garden Show, if I'm reading this all correctly. We do manage to support our local hockey club at the same time. My question is, your statement was if the Barons, and I'm not trying to predict a bad outcome here, but if the Barons would be exiting their playoffs and we've already entered into a contract with Quick Feet, where are we going then? I'm a little confused on that, and then I have a follow-up after that.
Yeah, so the proposal for the Quick Feet was not to exceed past April the 23rd, 24th. So that would not impact.
So the Barons are definitely playing up till April 23rd, 24th.
I don't know if it's necessarily guaranteed that they're playing all the way right up to the 23rd, 24th. Let me just grab their first round. So assuming they get through the division finals, the Pollock division. So based on the schedule.
Yeah, my question is, and like I said, not wishing them any bad luck, but if something goes wrong and they don't get past that first round, are we now committing to ice for Quick Feet up until whenever they're done with it?
No, we aren't asking for that at this time. We haven't entered into any agreements with Quick Feet at this time. So that will be brought forward to council should that opportunity present itself.
Okay, thank you. And
Okay.
yeah, and I'm okay with the discount. I think that's, you know, I support that. I support keeping the ice in as long as they need it. And I do, as long as we're supporting that other contract with the home show that we've committed to. I'm glad to see that everybody's able to work together and then come to this resolution. So that would be my position.
Okay, other comments or questions? Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Laura. This might be a question for Peter with the Barons. Your playoff rounds, all these dates, that's all game sevens?
We're about 14 days per series.
So it could be over sooner if a series only went 5 games.
No, because one series will not start before the scheduled end date of the other one. So if we put somebody 4 straight, we would not start our next round until the start date. They keep it all concurrent throughout the province. The dates are all that.
All righty. And then this question for Laura, there seemed to be a bit of confusion regarding the email sent by the Barons Parks and Rec dated January 18th. Were the events booked prior to that, like the 3 events that were going on before you received this email?
Correct, yes. And for 2 of them, or for the Home and Garden Show, I believe that was even from 2019. Yeah.
Councillor Cable, welcome. At this time, I know you're just getting settled. I'm going to ask you to declare your conflict because we are on item 8.2.
Sorry for my lateness, Your Worship. Hold on. Here we are. Thank you, Your Worship. I would just like to declare a pecuniary interest with Delegation 6.1 and Report PRC 0323 titled Extended ICE 2023 Update on our council meeting agenda for today. For the reason that I, under the name of my employer, have a rental currently booked at the P&H Center facility during the period that is being discussed for extended ICE.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm still just a little confused about the dates. The Schmaltz Cup Tournament, May 4th to the 9th, and that's a home game, is that correct? So the Home and Garden Show is booked for what dates are those?
The
Fifth?
5th through the 8th.
5th to the 8th. So are we not overlapping on that particular weekend? Like, are the boards up and down and up and down, or what's happening there?
Yeah, so we're anticipating that the boards can be put down in a day and taken up in a day. It's the ice maintenance underneath that we require to build the ice up a bit. And then ultimately we'll need to do some ice maintenance in order to, once the boards come up as well. So the actual Home and Garden Show is the 6th and 7th, the Saturday and the Sunday.
Go ahead.
So there's one home game and one away. I'm kind of basing that on our meeting. And maybe the Barons can back me up on that. So there's one home game in that division and one away game, and then they proceed to Woodstock for the finals.
So will the floor only need to go down once, or does it need to
Correct.
go down? Okay, so
Yeah.
it doesn't need to go down, up, down
Correct.
again.
Yeah, just once.
Sherry?
I was just going to add, in our conversations last week with the Barons, the intent would be that then the ice would be ready for them to play on May 9th, which meets that date requirement, was what the conversation we had last week.
Councillor Hawken.
Yeah, this question is to our CAO. So this never happens again. Can we not establish a late season ice policy that we maintain the ice as long as our teams are in playoffs? So we don't repeat this year after year?
Yes, that would be a great thing to do. And again, we learn from these moments, right? We had to deal with it last year and deal with it again. So either a late, or as I think it was noted after the delegation, just making sure our clauses are very clear and in the agreement accordingly. So
by that answer, we can make it happen?
yeah, either a late ice extension or just through clauses.
Okay, thank you very much, because you know, I echo Councillor Sackle's comments that it's kind of embarrassing when they've got this tradition and this history and 60 years and what it does for the community, for them to come and sort of with a hand in basket and say, gee, can we have more ice time? I think we just say, yes, we're going to support it, put a policy in place so this never happens again.
Councillor Hudson.
So Laura, just in going over your total additional estimated revenues, what your figure here is taking into consideration possibly that we would have Quick Feet come on board, and the possibility of miscellaneous rentals. So if that does not happen, the ice covering rental fee will have to, and with that, are we on the hook for that if for some reason we don't need it as well? You know, if things work out kind of oddly that, you know, a week before we realize we don't need it, can we cancel it? Do we still have to have it? And are we really looking at the numbers that we're looking at? Because everything's estimated with, you know, the different variations going on.
Through your worship. So that's why we broke it down based on giving you, instead of just giving you a lump sum number of X amount, we kind of wanted to break it down. This is how we're coming from Quick Feed. So that, for example, we've identified 20 hours from Quick Feed at $3,020, for example, so that you can do quick math. Should that not come together, that's the portion that would need to be eliminated out. We have done a survey with our existing ICE user groups to see about their interest, should we have an extension, and we have received a number of interested organizations. So some that I haven't even captured here, because if Quick Feed ICE becomes available, there could be another user that would scoop it up. And then I think the second part of your question was, are we on the hook for that $5,000 should the Barrens be eliminated? And the answer is no, we are not on the hook for that.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. Laura, are we going to give Quick Feed a date that we have to know by if they're going to use the ice or not?
It was my intention to bring a report forward in March. Hopefully at that point, they'll have things firmed up on their end. So I certainly haven't put that date together yet, but we could.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? I will call the question. All in favor of report PRC 0323 extended ice for the 2023. That is carried. Thank you. Okay, item 8.3 is report CL 0223 appointments to boards and committees. It's from Vicky McDonald, our clerk, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Sackle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Our procedure bylaw establishes a process for the appointment of members to municipal boards and committees. And it provides us with the ability to make appointments by resolution of council as they're required. And as you'll recall, at your December 19th meeting, council appointed members to various boards and committees by bylaw for the 2022 to 2026 council term. Following the inaugural meetings of many of the boards and committees, it was discovered that there were some conflicts with scheduling, and it was recommended that some of the appointments of council representatives on those committees and boards be altered. In addition, we had remaining vacant positions on the Age-Friendly Advisory Committee, and we have received additional applications for those vacancies. Mayor Patterson has reviewed them and recommended the appointment of Bailey Ressler and Sandra Hong to the Age-Friendly Advisory Committee for the 2022 to 2026 council term. The Heritage and Cultural Roundtable subcommittees, as well as the Downtown Improvement Area, have selected their respective representatives to sit on the Economic Tourism and Cultural Development Committee. And Jason Ron has been appointed to the Heritage Subcommittee, and Pat Butler will represent the Cultural Roundtable Committee. Jen Oliveira will represent the DIA on the Economic Tourism Cultural Development Committee. So to ensure that these boards and committees maintain their effectiveness in operations and meetings, there is a proposed amendments listed here in the report for council representation on those committees. So the Hanover Bentic Branton Agricultural Society, it's being proposed that Harold Fleet replace Carol Hudson as the council appointee. The Hanover Public Library Board, it's being proposed that Susan Sackle replace Brandon Cable as the alternate council representative. Age-Friendly Advisory Committee, Warren Dickert is the proposed alternate council appointee, replacing Susan Sackle. And we also have the recommended appointments of Bailey Ressler and Sandra Hong. And as we have two representatives on the Parks, Recreation, Culture Advisory Committee from council already, it's being proposed that the alternate be eliminated. And Economic Tourism Cultural Development Advisory Committee, the representatives from Heritage, Culture, and DIA are listed there. Jason Ron, Pat Butler, and Jen Olivero. And there are no financial implications associated with this report. The link to the strategic plan is community and sustainable municipal operations. The motion being that report CL 0223 appointments to boards and committees be received, and that council approve the committee and board appointments as outlined in report CL 0223 for the 2022 to 2026 council term. And I'd take any questions if any councillors have.
Thank you, Vicky. Councillor Hudson.
I'm just wondering, Vicky, if we can get a reprint of what the actual committees will be, then it's starting to get kind of messed up. If, could we do that?
Yes, absolutely. I will send out a revised appointment schedule that lists all these changes.
Councillor Hawking.
Just a comment. I'm so pleased that the DIA is now part of the Economic Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee, because the Chamber of Commerce already sits on there. So now we have both business groups sitting on that committee. So that's a good move. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands, so I'll call the question. All in favor of CL 0223, appointments to boards and committees? That's carried. Thank you. Item 8.4 is report CL 0323. The subject is alternate member of county council. Again, it's from our clerk, Vicky McDonald, and I need a mover and seconder to put this on the floor. Councillor Cable and Councillor Sackle. Vicky?
Section 268 of the Municipal Act provides the authority for council of a local municipality to appoint one of its members as an alternate member of the upper tier or county council. The alternate acts in place of the mayor or deputy mayor when they are unavailable to attend county council meetings. Only one alternate may be appointed, and they must be appointed for the term of council. Grey County's alternate member attendance policy, which I missed attaching to the report, but Mayor Sue has subsequently distributed, outlines the notice requirements, compensation, voting orientation, meeting preparation and declaration of office, closed session meeting, and communication for the alternate appointee. Appointing an alternate member is advantageous in maintaining Hanover's participation in county discussions and decisions, and will ensure Hanover receives its full weighted voting privileges. The member appointed as the alternate to county council will be provided orientation by the county, and they have already reached out to let us know that they will schedule that once we've made our alternate appointment. It is recommended that a nomination process among council take place for the appointment of the alternate Grey County councillor. And at this time, I'll just indicate first that Grey County will compensate the alternate member as per their policies. And that's the only financial implication to us. The link to the strategic plan is sustainable municipal operations. And the recommendation is that report CL 0323, alternate member of county council, be received. The council appoint an alternate member to county council as per section 268 of the Municipal Act, and that council adopt bylaw 3255-23 to appoint the selected councillor as the alternate member to Grey County Council. And at this time, Mayor Patterson, would you like me to conduct a nomination, or would you like to proceed?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Do we have any nominations? So Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor Fleet. He has indicated that he is interested in this role. He has also indicated that his schedule allows him to attend these meetings on short notice, which could be the case. And he did serve on that role in the past term of council, and so is familiar with what the requirements are. So that is my nomination.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Do we have any other nominations? You don't have, you may second it if you wish, but we don't require a seconder.
Well, I'd like to second because I wholeheartedly agree with Deputy Mayor Dickert. Harold's got the experience and he's got the time. and he's willing to do it. So I couldn't think of a better choice. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Councillor Hawking. Are there any other nominations for the alternate county councillor position? Seeing none. Harold Fleet, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. Thank you. I will accept the nomination, and I just hope Counselor Dickert, Deputy Mayor Dickert, and Sue Patterson stay healthy. Thank you.
Okay, so we do have a mover and seconder, Councillor Cable and Councillor Sackle. We are appointing Councillor Fleet as our alternate member of County Council. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 9 is committees of council minutes, and we have 3 sets of minutes with 2 subcommittee minutes. So we'll have one motion to approve them all. I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. So I have Deputy Mayor Dickert and Councillor Hawking. And we'll start with 9.1, which is the Economic, Tourism and Cultural Development Advisory Committee minutes from January 18th. And there are 2 sets of those minutes also on February 15th, and then the 2 subcommittee minutes. So Councillor Sackle, I'll just let you keep going on that, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So on the January 18th meeting, Dave Eccles was appointed as the chair of that committee, and Curtis Schmaltz received the appointment of vice chair. April Marshall took time to offer a presentation on what exactly economic development means. I'm sure you remember the cute little Lego video we saw earlier this year. April also updated the committee members on the HIP program and told us that we would be receiving, or actually starting January 23rd, we would have the apprentice project coordinator, Christine, coming. We had an update from Launchpad that field trips have been resumed and that colleges have been approached in order to offer more co-op programs. And the Hanover Chamber of Commerce has announced that the luncheons have resumed and that the annual general meeting will be held in person this year at the Legion. For the February 15th meeting, Chair Dave Eccles welcomed new members and introductions were made, and we've already heard the presentation from Vicky as to who's been appointed from the Cultural Roundtable and from the Heritage Committee. April spent a great deal of time on the Environonics Analytics, which is a program that looks at My Main Street and Economic Developers Council of Ontario. It's going to be a great opportunity to work with businesses and people who are looking at coming to Hanover. And after the discussion, the committee agreed to compile all the results and find ways to make it a little bit more simple so that businesses can understand what we have to offer here in Hanover. She spoke about Saugeen Connects and that the work plan is in effect. We're going to look at succession planning and workforce, youth and women pillars through things like the Student Startup Program, WOWSA, and Advancing Women Economically. She reviewed the work plan for the Saugeen Shores, Aaron Aldisley, Brockton, and Hanover to assist in development of leveraging the river access points as a tourism. And then Christine was present at this meeting, Christine Sampson, our new apprentice project coordinator. She's very enthusiastic. We look forward to working with Christine, and she's going to be working specifically with Launchpad. The Hanover Chamber of Commerce update commented that the chamber's organizing the return of the successful Spring Shop and Win promotion and the return of the Spring Awards. Your Worship, I'll go on to the Hanover Heritage Committee minutes at this time on January the 19th. Jason Ron was appointed as the chairperson and Al Morrow as the vice chair. There's been some inquiries and requests from a local retired forester seeking history of the Nectal Furniture Factory. So Al Morrow met at the archives and provided information to that individual. Laura Kristen shared a letter from the museum in Belgium looking for more information on a fallen soldier from the Hanover area called William John Hopkins. And there was a request submitted for content for the upcoming Senior Star publication that's developed by the Parks, Recreation and Culture Development. They're looking for some old photos or stories or memories. And finally, the Cultural Roundtable Committee minutes from February the 1st. Bev Morgan was nominated as the chairperson. Pat Butler was nominated as the vice chairperson, and that was accepted. There was a review of the HIP pillars. The Event Development Fund is available once again in 2023 with $6,000 budgeted to give to organizations to grow new or pre-existing cultural events for the community. Music in the Square is happening once again. April identified the Sundays still going to be at 2 o'clock. Councillor Brandon Cable is contacting and booking artists to perform. We're going to be starting June 11th and going to August the 27th. The Cultural Plan Implementation Committee is to organize a joint event with neighboring communities, and they want to reach out and talk to other cultural roundtable committees or centers. They're also looking at a possibility of working at an art show for youth in conjunction with Launchpad. Thank you.
Very good. A lot of information, a lot happening. Councillor Hawking.
Yeah, I was, thank you, Your Worship. I was interested to read the art connection with the Launchpad. I'd just like to make a plug to the Launchpad that I received notice that the Plan Air Art Festival is going again this year, second year, July the 19th to the 23rd. And I know the last time we had an all-out blitz to go to the schools looking for students to participate. If this initiative with the Launchpad, that would be a great tie-in for that art festival. As I said, 19th to the 23rd. Thank you.
Very good. Other comments or questions? Okay, so moving on, then we have item 9.3. This is the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee minutes from January 25th, and I will call upon Councillor Cable or Councillor Hudson to highlight those minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. We'll go back and forth, so I'll start this month and we'll let Councillor Hudson do next month's. So we had a great presentation from Vicky, who provided an overview of municipal rules for boards and committees, and that was very informative. So that was great to have her attend. Keith Hopkins will be the chairperson for Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory, and Tony Diaco will be taking on the position of vice chairperson. As part of the staff reports, we congratulated Dan Fisher, who is retiring from Parks, Recreation and Culture after 30 years of service. So congratulations to Dan. He'll certainly be missed at the P&H Center. There was an update on chair and standing yoga, which is a great success. So chair yoga has reached capacity, and standing yoga, there's still some room in there, but a strong group of participants. So it's great to see people actively engaged in our yoga programs. The committee did review the proposed rates and fees, and that was coming from the council inquiry to go back and review rates and fees for 2023. And the Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee has carried a motion that the rates for single admission do not increase this year, but could be reconsidered at a future time. We also had an update on the Splash Pad and Center of Excellence feasibility study and a presentation from Plural, which is the landscape architect firm. They'll be presenting to Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory on March the 1st at 6 o'clock. So we look forward to their presentation and updates on the survey that went public earlier this month. I think other than that, that's a good recap of our meeting, but if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Councillor Cable. Any questions? Further comments, Councillor Hudson? No? Okay. All right, so that was the last set of minutes. So we do have a motion to receive the information in those 3 sets of minutes, plus the subcommittee minutes that we just reviewed. And this is to approve the recommendations contained in those minutes. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Item 10 is bylaws. We have 3 bylaws, so I need a mover and seconder to put that on the floor. So I have Councillor Hawking and Counselor Fleet. And I will ask the clerk for the intent of those bylaws, please.
Bylaw 325423 is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the January 16th, 2023 regular council meeting and the January 25th, 2023 special council meeting. Bylaw 3255-23 is a bylaw to appoint an alternate member to Grey County Council. Bylaw 3256-23 is a bylaw regarding the discharge of firearms in the town of Hanover.
Thank you. So it's been moved by Councillor Hawking, seconded by Councillor Fleet, that bylaw numbers 3254-23 through to 3256-23 be introduced and that they be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and inserted in the bylaw book. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. Item 11 is correspondence requiring action. We do not have any this afternoon. Item 12 is reports and correspondence for information. And the first one, 12.1, is the Fire Department's 2022 annual report. Chief Denniger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have to hook up. I'm going to try and run the whole show from here, so bear with me. Okay, so yeah, I'm honored to present the 2022 annual report for Hanover Fire Department this afternoon. And I will attempt to hit some of the highlights that were presented in the report. So first off, we always start with our mission, vision, and values. These were created by firefighters a couple of years ago. The mission is focused on community and commitment. Visions focus on being innovative and progressive, and values include trust, loyalty, and respect. So we always try and come back to our mission, vision, and values to make sure that what we're doing meet the standard that was created by the firefighters. So in 2022, we actually accomplished quite a bit. Emergency responses were varied and complex. They included a bomb threat, a large downtown fire, complex rescue situations, and much more. Firefighters again responded effectively and efficiently, providing the community with a professional and skilled service that protected both life and property. HFD completed over 10,300 staff hours of training, response, and administrative duties. Training was completed 3 to 4 nights a week, as well as many weekends. Training HFD firefighters continued to be a focus to ensure that staff are prepared for the variety of emergency situations that they may encounter. HFD continued with the completion of that National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, certification. NFPA 1001 firefighter level 1 and 2, as well as NFPA 1720, which is hazardous materials awareness and operations training and testing, was completed with over 20 certificates awarded. HFD achieved many accomplishments in 2022, a few of which are response to 196 emergency calls, which is 11 more than in 2021, a total of over 2,400 on-scene personnel hours, an average response of 7 minutes and 15 seconds within the town of Hanover from a 911 call, a reduction of 42 seconds from 2021. And donations and grants to HFD totaled over 25,000 from various businesses, government, and personal sources. In 2022, the province of Ontario announced mandatory certification requirements for all fire departments in Ontario. This was a significant piece of legislation that has profound impact on the fire service, particularly volunteer fire departments. HFD is well poised to be ready for the 2026 deadline for all firefighters and officers involved in fire suppression to be certified. HFD already meets or exceeds the requirements and have been certifying recruit firefighters since 2021 to the standard. HFD is now preparing to begin certifying for 4 areas of technical rescue ahead of the 2028 deadline for these specialties. In addition to training, HFD was successful in battling the large downtown fire that required significant resources and firefighters over a 30-hour period to hold the damage to 2 buildings. HFD firefighters did exemplary work that night and into the next day to hold the fire from ripping through the downtown core. A number of public education events were completed in 2022. Presentations at the Saugeen Valley Safety Village allowed departments to meet many young children and introduce them to fire safety and the fire department as a community helper. HFD's junior firefighter camp, led by Fire Prevention Officer Rob Hagan and firefighter Christina Schnell, operated in partnership with Hanover Parks and Recreation. This camp provided 15 youth with information and practical experience with a variety of firefighting skills for an entire week during the summer months. A total of 33 fire prevention events totaling 100 hours were held. An estimated 2,110 individuals participated in these events. As far as fire safety standards and enforcement, HFD continued with its education program regarding the need for smoke and carbon monoxide alarms in the home. Proactive enforcement of the fire code was conducted on an ongoing basis. HFD continued with its policy to never leave a home without smoke and carbon monoxide alarms when responding to an alarm. As far as emergency response, we talked with the bomb threat that we attended with Hanover Police, continued support of the Grey County Training Association, Grey County Regional Training Center, and Grey County Chiefs Association. Many operational changes were implemented to improve efficiency and response protocols. A community risk assessment was completed by staff for the town of Hanover, assisting to guide HFD services, and the staffing complement of suppression staff was increased to 35. When we look at Alarm for Life, the results observed in 2022 indicate a 36.9 compliance rate of residences for both working smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarms. Those not in compliance typically had smoke alarms that were over 10 years of age or without a power supply. The result was an increase from the compliance rate of 25% in 2021, when 64 attempts were made. During Fire Prevention Week in October, FPO Hagan focused his attention on educating children in the schools. He visited classrooms in each of the local schools throughout the week to increase knowledge and awareness regarding Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, which is the theme of fire prevention in 2022. During 2022, HFD received 11 complaints regarding potential code violations. All complaints were investigated and closed successfully. In total, 150 inspections were completed in 2022. This was an increase from the 108 inspections in 2021. The department issued online fire permits again this year. This was very successful with a total of 277 permits approved and paid. The total revenue received exceeded $11,000. In addition to making it easier for residents to access and pay for permits, the information obtained is loaded into a tablet that firefighters can use quickly to view all issued burn permits while attending burn complaints. At full complement, HFD has 35 members total. There are 32 members currently. As a result of the length of recruitment training, the department only hires once a year. As members retire or resign throughout the year, they are not replaced until the following year. When we look at apparatus use for emergency calls, we can see that Rescue 909 is the highest used apparatus for emergencies, with Squad 903 being a close second. This is due to the fact that at present, 909, which is a rescue pumper, responds to medical calls on its own, as it has all the rescue and medical equipment on it. When we look at fuel cost per apparatus, we can see 903 is the highest cost, as this is a pickup truck and used for many things like fire prevention, meetings, training outside the area, and really has the highest use of all other than emergency response. And a close second would be Rescue 909, which is going to all the medicals and rescue calls. We also track the repair costs. Throughout the year, each apparatus must be maintained at peak performance, both for safety for firefighters and effective operation in emergency scenes. While a percentage of repairs and inspections will ensure operation of the drive components, other repairs and inspections will be for the pump and suppression equipment. This graph illustrates the total amount of repair and inspection costs for each apparatus. We can see that ladder 902 has the highest cost as an aerial device is costly to maintain, but the advantages of this apparatus in fire and rescue situations is unquestionable. In 2022, the Hanover Fire Department responded to 196 calls total. This included emergency responses within the municipality of Brockton and West Gray as per fire service agreements, and for specialty rescue services within these municipalities. The bulk of emergency calls and hours are initiated from the town of Hanover. As we can see, over 767 firefighter hours were utilized responding within the municipality. In 2022, HFD responded to 163 emergency calls within Hanover. This is an increase of 11 from 2021. The highest percentage of emergency response was for medical at 37.4, an increase of 11 incidents from 2021. A medical assistance is an emergency call where the original need for 911 was medical distress. Specifically, these emergencies include vital signs absent, unconscious, or significant delay in EMS response. It should be noted that at least on 3 occasions in 2022, HFD members responded to medical calls with vital signs absent and provided life-saving CPR or AED actions and led to resuscitation of the patient. The second highest was false alarm activations at 20% and rescues, which include vehicle accidents, technical rescues, and general rescue situations was number 3 at 10%. This just shows you that the type of occupancy associated with these responses in Hanover were varied. The highest percentage was the residential locations, as this occupancy makes up the majority of the buildings within the town of Hanover. So you can see clearly the residential is far surpassed by the others, or it far surpasses the others. As far as responses in its entirety, as I stated, we saw a slight increase in 2022. This graph demonstrates the comparison between 2022 and 2021. Very close, very close. Medicals continue as first for both, false alarms second for both, and rescues third for both. Typically, we also look at, we just break down what kind of day the calls came in at, and we can see that in 2022, the peaks for emergencies were between 1,600 and 1,700, 13 and 1,400. Now, because we are compromised of paid on-call firefighters, the attendance at the calls depends on work and who's available during the time. So this is just something we keep an eye on to see what's happening, where are the trends, and are there any trends? Mostly year over year, there aren't really any significant trends that we see because it changes constantly. We also look at comparators. So to compare HFD responses to other municipalities, we look at similar sized municipalities, and this would indicate some of the 2021 data. I have to get this from the Ontario Fire Marshal, and 2022 data is not available yet, so we have to look at 2021. Very similar as far as response, highs and lows. There was one municipality that seemed to have a significantly more medical response. I'm not sure why. But we're very similar to the comparators as far as the percentage of calls that we go to. We're second highest in number of calls. So the average response rate is very low to all corners of our municipality, which is a good thing. The response equates to just over 7 minutes from the 911 call. And this, as I stated, it was a reduction of 42 seconds from 2021. This result is a 2-year reduction in response times that equals 47 seconds. Based on NFPA and fire underwriter standards, Hanover's class is an urban population base. As a result, the standard indicates HFD is required to have 15 people on scene within 9 minutes, 90% of the time, to fire emergencies. In 2022, the standard was met 38% of the time, which is an improvement over 2021, but is very challenging to meet depending on when those calls come in and who's working and who's available. But we attempt to at all times, and we keep an eye on this to see what's happening and what's trending. But still, the overall response rate of just over 7 minutes within the municipality is excellent. That means personnel have to get paged, get here, get their PPE on, get in their proper apparatus, and get to the scene. In 2022, HFD operated NFPA 1001 and NFPA 1072 training, which I indicated before. This is approved by the Fire Marshal's office, and we complete testing and skill assessment at the end of our training. This provides our firefighters with an opportunity to learn at home with HFD staff and equipment that exceeds the provincial standards for information provided. Ensure that all information is specific to Hanover and tests are here at home. This saves the department thousands of dollars in travel and training costs, but also ensures that all staff are certified for the work they do. As I said, we spent over 10,000 hours training, meeting, and administration time in 2022, and we trained 3 to 4 nights a week, which allowed for attendance, a higher rate of attendance over the year, and specialized training for different groups depending on their experience and need. So if we look at our accomplishments overall, we had a number of personnel accomplishments. We had pump operator Vince Wan was awarded 10 years of service, Matt Marshall 10 years of service, AJ Grant 5 years, and then operator Ben Plackholm with 5 years with HFD, but 20 years total in the fire service. We received funding of over $18,000 for a new state-of-the-art DJI Matrice 30T drone, which was received from Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation. This drone has thermal cameras comparable to a fixed helicopter system and has a flight time of over 40 minutes. We reduced our response time, which was discussed, successfully contained a large downtown fire. We worked with Hanover Police to successfully manage a bomb threat, completed HFD's first round of NFPA 1072 hazardous materials provincial testing. We responded to the second highest annual call volume in HFD history. We completed live fire training with 11 fire suppression staff in partnership with Bruce Power, and an additional live fire training for 28 firefighters with the Ontario Fire Marshal's Mobile Live Fire Training Unit. We created two new lieutenant positions and 1 new pump operator position. We completed the community risk assessment, observed an increase in alarm for life compliance. We increased our instructor 2 certified members by 2 and our fire officer level 2 by 1. We completed annual training for all technical rescue specialties. We completed a 2022 recruitment drive, which resulted in over 20 applications for 9 positions. We received over $20,000 in funding and donations. We implemented a digital radio system with all Grey County fire departments. The department handled a variety of calls ranging in severity and duration, as I stated before. Also in July, we said goodbye to Deputy Chief Terry McDonald. So Terry McDonald served HFD for over 27 years from 1984 to 2011. HFD had the privilege to provide Deputy Chief McDonald with an honor guard and a last ride to his final resting place. That was something that we did in partnership with West Grey Fire. They came and covered for us, and it was very well received by our members and the family of Deputy Chief McDonald. So looking ahead, 2023 HFD members will spend time continuing to train for ever-changing emergency response, utilizing the community risk assessment completed in 2022 as a guide. Preparation for increasingly complex and significant emergencies will ensure that crews are prepared no matter what emergencies exist. Staff will also begin working on the design of a new net zero fire station. In 2023, the design will be completed and the build scheduled to begin in summer. It's anticipated the building will be ready by use by mid-2024. The town of Hanover continues to be supported by paid on-call firefighters who are willing to respond to emergencies at any given time with no notice and no schedule. Firefighters respond without hesitation when pagers are activated. This group of dedicated individuals are intently focused on the needs of the community they serve. HFD is fortunate to have 32 individuals who put their community first. 2023 will bring new challenges and situations that will push HFD firefighters to their limits. HFD firefighters will attend, they will strive for excellence, and they will overcome. The town of Hanover remains in very good hands with experts ready to respond to emergencies whenever required. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. First of all, I want to say we're very proud of the Hanover Fire Department. I am thankful that you have the commitment to the Hanover Fire Department from all firefighters, because when you look at that time commitment, 3-4 nights a week, plus any fires or accidents you're going to, that's on top of it. So the town of Hanover is in good hands. Your specialized training, which is a commitment above and beyond, is great for our community. And what can I say? We're in good hands. We're safe. Thank you. Council comments, Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I certainly echo your comments there. We are certainly proud of the department and yourself and your team for all your accomplishments and those great service that you provide to our community. The one question I did have though, and your amazing response times, it's 7 minutes, 15 seconds, but I do see the average dispatch time actually going the other direction, and that's not something you likely control. Is there, maybe you can just give me some insight into that?
Through your worship, we actually switched dispatch providers this year, and the two dispatch providers indicate their times slightly different, as well as utilizing the new digital radio system led to some more small changes. So I'm anticipating that's going to continue to decrease as we go, but there has been some development issues as we've gone. So it is starting to come down, but when you switch dispatch providers, there's a lot for them to learn about how we do things. So it increased a little bit off the hop, but then we got it back down really quickly.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
Other comments? Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you as well, Chief, for the very extensive report, but very, very good and great response times. And also for providing the medical assistance, all the medical assistance calls that you do, which seems to be a huge part of your calls. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit as to some of the different things that are included in the false alarm calls.
Through you, Your Worship. Sometimes it'll be a system malfunction. So it'll be a general fire alarm system that will malfunction. It'll sometimes be a perceived emergency where someone thinks there's an emergency and their alarm might actually be indicating a low battery, but they think it's going off. So we try and be very accurate with how we record things. So if it's a perceived emergency or a false alarm of some sort, we indicate that as such. So really any false alarm as we get there and there is no emergency, whatever that situation might be.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sackle, then Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you again, Chief Denninger, for your report. And I just want you to know that I had a tour of the fire hall for the very first time on Friday when I spent the morning with Rob Hagan with the Random Acts of Kindness. And I saw the facility and how crammed you are in that building. And I'm so happy that you're going to have a new building soon. I met Randy and Oscar, the mannequins that hang out on the wall, well, somewhat. So thank you for everything you do.
Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much, Chief, for your report, and congratulations on a very successful year. I'm always amazed by the response time. I just can't quite fathom how you would get from work to here and dressed and on the truck and to the other location in town within 7 minutes. I'm just wondering if you could speak to the fire inspection. So you spoke about having 150 inspections completed this year, and 11 of them were complaint driven and some of them were requested. where do the 114 routine inspection locations, how is that determined? Is it by the type of building or where does that come from?
Through you, your worship. We will create priorities each year. There's certain sections of commercial that we'll want to see every year. Kitchens are an example because there's a high risk. So we will indicate in every year high concern areas that we might have. So you've got your kitchens for sure going to get visited every year, as well as multi-units. So most of the apartment buildings are going to be inspected each year just to make sure that everything is up to snuff. So we do have though ongoing priorities where we'll look at our numbers from the previous year and say we had a high potential of pre-fire or fire calls in this area. So we want to make sure we're being proactive and we're inspecting those locations this year.
Excellent, thank you. So I suppose that as we have more multi-residential buildings go up and more mid-scale apartments, that creates additional workload for the fire department.
Slight. We're talking about a few buildings, so it's important work because there's so many people in that building. So it's time that we want to make sure we're taking to make sure that they have the proper tools for early notification and potential fire suppression as well if we get there. So it's work that's well spent.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Chief, for your report. I just want to thank you for your dedication and your staff, the hours, and you're talking a lot of volunteers that any time of the day, they're ready to be there for the residents of our community. I just want to say thank you. And 7 minutes and 15 seconds, that's pretty impressive response time. So I just want to say thank you very much.
Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excellent report, Chief. Are you approached by the real estate industry at all to do fire inspections? And if so, do you charge a fee to them?
Through you, Your Worship, there are certain situations where we'll be contacted by lawyers who are representing individuals in the real estate transaction. And so there is a fee for that because it's scheduled and it's part of the real estate transaction. It's not typically on every sale. It'll be for rental units typically.
And do you have a standard fee?
Yes, it's outlined in our fees and services.
Okay, I have one final question. So have a couple of presentations lined up. I want to make sure I have my information correct. Your 4 specialized areas of training are swift water, ice water, enclosed spaces, and high angle? No?
So close. Swift water, ice water, static water, and high angle.
Thank you very much. And I do want to say we'll miss you when you move to your new fire hall. So,
Luckily, we'll still be around.
right. Okay, moving on. Item 12.2 is the health and safety report for 2022. And we should have Melissa Hilgendorf online to highlight that. Melissa?
Able to hear me?
I don't hear you yet, Melissa. No, I'm reading lips.
Trying one more time.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Thank you, good. Okay, apologies for that. So I am pleased to present for you this evening our 2022 Health and Safety Report. I believe it's our 3rd report now, our 3rd annual report. And it begins on page 87 of the council agenda package.
Just as an introduction around our Joint Health and Safety Committee, we do have a committee, a town-wide committee that's comprised of 3 management representatives, 3 worker representatives, and then the health and safety coordinator. It's comprised of staff from across departments. So we've got a really wide variety there, which is very great. And all of those staff on the committee work really hard to support the health and safety of over 170 of their peers. The committee holds regular meetings, generally quarterly, but they will call meetings more often if needed to review, investigate, or resolve concerns that arise. The 2022 Health and Safety Work Plan, which is known as JHS 012, was successfully executed for the year. So you may remember at a recent meeting, council approved the work plan for 2023. So it's really important that we identify goals each year and that council is aware of them and approves them. And from there, they're made available to staff to help ensure accountability for the duties of the committee. And as noted within the report, there's a table there that shows the committee was successful in achieving all the goals set, with a note that the goal for confined space will continue into 2023, just as we await further information from Grey County related to the topic. When it comes to monthly health and safety inspections, there's a lot of people involved in these and there are a lot of them. So they are completed by each department for each location in most cases. Workers and managers work together to complete the inspections. And then we do have a schedule where our health and safety committee members parachute into those monthly inspections just to help provide guidance around the process and make sure that everything is happening the way it should and that there is a resource there if anyone has questions during the inspections. In 2022, there were just under 200 inspections completed, which is a bit of an increase over 190 inspections completed last year or the previous year. So this just indicates that we have increased department efforts in ensuring regular completion of inspections. And it also has to do with more of our facilities being open as a result of return to normal operations after COVID-19. As shown on page 91 of the council agenda package, 15% of inspections noted required actions were needed, which is an improvement over 19% in 2021. And just a handy note that in 2020, it was actually 30%. So we have cut that in half, which is fantastic. It's a testament to the town's ongoing efforts in maintaining safe work environments. And the committee analyzed the inspection reports. They didn't identify any specific trends. Corrective actions were generally minor in nature and they were completed either on the same day as the inspection or the very next day in 62% of instances. And all items were addressed within the legislated 21 days. As for incidents and accidents, 2022 saw 6 incidents being reported to the Health and Safety Committee and senior management, which is about half that of the prior year. The incidents involved both town staff as well as visitors to municipal facilities or members of the public. There were no critical injuries reported to the Ministry of Labor and only 1 injury requiring medical care that needed to be reported to WSIB. So those are very good statistics. Health and safety policies, procedures, and guidelines. The committee set a schedule to ensure that health and safety policies, procedures, and related documents are reviewed regularly. Generally, this is every 4 years, but it may happen sooner if needed to maintain compliance or if something comes up that needs to be addressed. In 2022, the Health and Safety Committee reviewed, updated, and created approximately 20 items. A detailed listing is available on page 93 of your agenda package. It's important to note that while making sure our policies and procedures are in place is important, it's just as important to ensure staff review them and understand them. So our new and updated documents are distributed to staff who then sign off on a confirmation of understanding. And those records are then provided to Human Resources where they're entered and tracked in an Excel training matrix and then filed for retention purposes. Health and safety training closely relates to making sure all staff are kept up to date on our policies and procedures. So training activities have moved back to a more normal level as opposed to lower levels during the COVID-19 pandemic. As you can see in the chart on page 94 of your package, a wealth of training and policy and procedure reviewed in 2022. And just noting that requirements for training continue to grow. And as that does, then so does our responsibility to monitor our trainings and ensure timely recertifications, follow up on incomplete or missing items, mitigating risk and ensuring ongoing compliance. While monitoring and maintaining the town's training matrix is time consuming and challenging, it is imperative that we do so to demonstrate due diligence and compliance as provided for in the Occupational Health and Safety Act. When it comes to our COVID-19 response, 2022 saw a shift in a more return to normal operations. The Health and Safety Committee continued to maintain our response protocols according to provincial and public health direction, but it has shifted, you may have noticed, more to a broader focus on infection control as a whole, as opposed to solely focusing on COVID-19. In conclusion, I think an excellent effort was made throughout 2022 to continue upholding the duties and goals of the committee, with notable improvements in areas of our incident frequency, regular inspections, and completing corrective actions. So I'd just like to extend appreciation to all staff and to the Health and Safety Committee for their ongoing commitment to maintaining our health and safety program. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. I think we all know how important health and safety is to our staff. Not only do we want our staff to be safe, we have a responsibility to make sure they are safe, and they have a right to work in a safe environment. So I know there's a lot of work with the training and documentation, but it's so important that we continue with this, and you do a great job, Melissa, with recapping everything in the report. So well done to you and your committee. Council, any comments? Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. Excellent report, Melissa. Well done. I just would like you to interpret for me page, excuse me, the one health and safety training, where you talk about course the number of completions. So what does it mean when you say 236 completions with workplace violence and harassment policies?
So that would mean that that policy, someone read through it 236 times. So throughout the course of the year, it was read that many times and signed off on by a staff member.
It could be the same, it could be a person reading it 10 times, is that correct? No?
Not generally. Generally, it would be just once when it's updated. But this one, it is a higher number. It's well above our current staffing complement, because this one was also important. The workplace violence and harassment one you're speaking to also went out to council committee members, many additionals, as well as volunteers.
That explains it, because I was thinking 170 staff and then 236. So thank you very much.
Okay, other comments? Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. Melissa, just thinking from an inclusion lens and accessible formats, are the policies made available to staff in a digital format so that a speech to text reader could be used on them for any employees that perhaps could use that support to read through the documents?
Through you, Your Worship, yes, they are generally all provided electronically, and they're available on the staff intranet electronically. However, we do have the opposite, where some staff prefer to receive in print, and we're happy to accommodate that.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. We're going to move on. Item 12.3 is the Launchpad Board of Director meeting minutes from December 6th and February 7th. Councillor Sacco, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Although I did not attend the December 6th Launchpad meeting, I have read the minutes, and there was a lot of discussion at that time about the deficit, and they were determined to create an action plan to deal with that. There was also some discussion regarding a giving letter that they were sending to families who have supported them in the past. At the February 7th meeting, they talked about school field trips now wanting to include the grade 6 students. And we discussed the fact that we thought it was important not to use the same curriculum that the 7 and 8s are getting. So Nicholas made a point of that. He also identified 2 subcommittees. He wanted one for fundraising and one for operations. Launchpad is also hoping to partner with the Cultural Roundtable with some kind of event for youth. And budget meetings continue to happen, so it is hoped that a budget can be submitted to the town as soon as possible. Thank you. If there are any questions, I could entertain them at this time.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Worship. I would assume they get paid by the Board of Education's for a field trip.
There's payment between the board and the Launchpad facility, yes.
Do you know how much they get paid per trip?
Brandon might know that because he has booked with Launchpad before. May I ask you, Councillor Cable?
Thank you. Through you, your worship. This year, the current rate is $50 per student per day is what we're paying.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Item 12.4 is the Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit Meeting Minutes, and that's otherwise known as SMART. Deputy Mayor Dicker.
Thank you, Your Worship. That meeting was the last meeting of that Board of Directors, and there was only 3 members who were returning for the new term. So it was a lot of last minute things to kind of wrap up before we moved on. So what we did was finalize some of the policies we'd been working on, media relations, board and employee meetings, and the employee mileage reimbursement policy. We deferred the wage adjustment discussion until the new board's in place, just so that everybody would, the next 4 years would be able to be familiar with how that works and give us a chance to get the input from our partner municipalities. We discussed our plans for the strategic plan update. We discussed the 2023 proposed budget and approved that. And the September operations report had ridership of 2,051 rides. Hanover made up 385 of those rides, which is about 19%, which is pretty constant as we go through the year. Our average fee per ride was $12.10, and Hanover does tend to have more short rides than our other partner municipalities because having 2 long-term care facilities in the municipality and a lot of medical appointments tends to drive some of those shorter rides, and they are actually the best support for the organization. So that is a good thing. So if there's any questions, I would be glad to try and answer them.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any questions at this time. Item 12.5 is a resolution from the town of Petrolia. They are requesting that school boards become responsible for conducting their own trustee elections, or at minimum, municipalities be compensated by the school boards for overseeing such trustee elections. I don't know if anyone has any comments about that, but it is being received for information. Item 12.6 is an invitation from the Bruce and Grey County Federations of Agriculture to attend the annual politicians meeting on Saturday, March 25th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And this year it's at the Katy Community Center. In the past, it's been Elmwood. So if you're attending, go to Katy, not to Elmwood. Councillor and staff updates. This is item 13. And this afternoon, we'll start with Councillor Fleet.
Thank you, Your Worship. In January, I attended a retirement party for Dan Fisher. And we had 3 of our senior staff members, Dan Fisher, Mary Ann Lamont, and Paul Moose retire. I'd like to acknowledge each of them and their contributions to our town and wish them a great retirement. February 17th, participated in the Random Acts of Kindness Day. Police and firefighters and council deliver coffee around the community. Thanks to Chief Noel for the invite and to be involved. February 20th, attended Family Day activities. I want to thank Parks and Rec for their planning. All events were well attended. Special thanks for our bingo caller, Don Botland. Thank you, Mr. Botland. I've attended my committee and board meetings. And just mark on your calendars, Age Friendly Expo is March 28th from 1 to 4 p.m. in the Lions Den. We're looking for council members that may support the event by volunteering. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hawking.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too completed my committee work on the Hanover Police Services Board and the Saugee Municipal Airport. I too was involved in the Random Act of Kindness. It was absolutely a blast. I was fortunate enough to be in a cruiser, and you know, you pull up to someone and the lights are flashing and roll the window down and say, "Would you like a coffee?" So it was a great day. And talking to the chief, he received a lot of positive comments. So it was a great thing to do. On January the 24th, I had a telephone interview with Patrick Zabel of the Ontario Ombudsman. In June of last year, they received a complaint on our protocol. They did an investigation and we were cleared of any wrongdoing. And he just wanted to report that. And that report is circulated to our commission members, and it's also on their website. I, like Harold, would like to have you circle May the 13th. It's the Saturday before Mother's Day, I believe. And the Saugee Municipal Airport Commission is hosting a Counselor Information Day where we're going to have updates on the Flight Academy. We're going to have tours of the property, and we're going to have pilots giving free rides of the area. So if you could circle that date, and it would be much appreciated as a show of support for the commission if we have a good turnout. I think that's pretty well it, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Hudson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also dropped in on the Age Friendly meeting on February the 13th to find out a little bit more about their particular committee and what they were doing, and finding out about the expo they have coming up. On Saturday, the 4th of February, we had an OLA conference downstairs in the Saugeen room with for the library board on different groups of libraries and some of the challenges they're facing and how to kind of get through things, fundraising and that sort of thing. And then also I dropped in yesterday briefly to the Family Day activities at the P&H Center. You had a huge number of people there, lots of balloon animals going out the door and faces painted beautifully, and great job by all of the staff, and the bingo was well attended, lots of great prizes. So it was a good day.
Thank you. Councillor Cable.
Thank you, Your Worship. On January the 17th, I attended the Hanover Bentinck and Brand Agricultural Society Annual General Meeting. It was their first in-person AGM in several years. Unfortunately, the strategic plan was not ready for approval at that point in time, but it is anticipated that a final draft will be presented for board approval in March. We're just down to some graphics and text and those kind of details. January the 21st, I assisted with the Hanover Lions Club Windfall Draw. So very thankful to the Hanover Lions for their continued support of Hanover activities and organizations. On January the 25th, I attended the PRC Advisory Committee meeting. And as I mentioned, the Advisory Committee will be meeting with Plural next week to discuss the Center of Excellence Park and Splash Pad survey results. On February the 7th, we had a disc golf ad hoc committee meeting. So the meeting was focused on finalizing a disc golf hole sponsorship package and reviewing signage that will be displayed at Hanover Park with etiquette and rules. Our hope is to install the course at Hanover Park on 7th Ave this spring. Residents can visit www.hanover.ca/disc-golf to learn more about the project. On February the 8th, the Hanover Raceway Committee met. Harness racing will begin on Saturday, June the 3rd at 1:30 p.m. The Raceway is recruiting for several positions right now, and they will also be attending the upcoming job fair at John Diefenbaker Secondary School on February the 28th from 1 to 6 p.m. So if you're interested in summer employment, please be sure to check out their booth. I also attended the Family Day activities yesterday at the PNH Center. It was great just to see everybody back for an in-person event. So nice, and bingo was a great idea. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Sacco.
Thank you, Your Worship. On January the 18th, I attended the Economic, Tourism and Culture Committee meeting. On the 23rd of January, I took part in the virtual funding announcement by Honorable Randy Boissonnault, the Minister of Tourism, where Hanover received funding for our theatre renovation. That same day, I attended my first meeting at Launchpad, which focused solely just on budget. On February 7th, I attended a Launchpad general meeting. On February 14th, I watched the Planning Advisory Committee meeting webinar. On the 15th of February, I attended my second Economic, Tourism and Cultural meeting. On February 17th, I participated in the Random Act of Kindness, and I was able to get my first ride in a fire truck. I was in engine 910 that day, and I had so much fun delivering coffee to people that were shoveling snow, that kind of thing. And on February 20th, I enjoyed participating in the Family Day bingo. And I'd also like to congratulate you, Laura, and Parks and Rec for such a great job. And it was so amazing to see the PNH Center so busy with people. And I know you had a full pool that day as well, and lots of people skating and lots of people at bingo. And thank you for that. And I too enjoyed Donnie Butlin and his antics at the bingo. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Dickert.
Thank you, Your Worship. January and February Chamber of Commerce luncheons, attended both of them, and it is a great opportunity to sit and meet with our different businesses in town and get to hear what their great ideas and plans they have for the future, and just generally a great time to get to know the businesses and the people that operate them. Attended the Roma conference, had our first physician recruitment meeting, and we're getting things rolling there. Soggy Mobility had our meeting February 7th. Mayor Patterson and I met with the South Bruce people to get an update on the Deep Geological Repository project and how that's moving along. So that was very interesting. Had a waste management meeting February 10th. Also participated in the Random Act of Kindness Day on the 17th and the Family Day activities, which have all been spoken about, and both events great to be a part of, and makes you be proud to be connected with the town and doing the great things that are going on here. So thank you.
Thank you. And I also attended the chamber luncheon where Andrew Wilkin spoke, our building services manager in CBO. People are always interested about what's going on in Hanover. As much as we know and try and get that information out there, it's difficult to reach everyone. So it was good, and Andrew did a good presentation, and the people were very interested. So that's nice to see. I also attended the Ag Society annual general meeting. That was nice to see, and the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority annual general meeting. I've joined a new committee with Grey County, which is the Long-Term Care Committee of Management. So I attended orientation and a regular meeting with that. And I'm all still a member, actually past chair of the Board of Health, and that's connected through the county. And I just want to say, before we had our 6-hour budget meeting here in Hanover, Deputy Mayor Dickert and I sat in on a 7-hour budget meeting with Grey County Council. So we had a lot of numbers in a few days. So I also attended with April Marshall, our economic development manager, attended the official opening of Little Bloomers, which is a child care center just over here on the corner of 9th and 11th Avenue. And we also went out to see Exterior Supply Company, which specializes in windows, entry doors, siding, and garage doors. And that's owned and operated by Steve and Brittany Hawk. So that was nice to see, a couple of new businesses opening. And we did have a student visit here in the council chambers from the Saugeen Academy. Our CAO Sherry and I presented information about government, the different levels of government, local government, and roles in the town itself. If any young people are looking about careers, we tried to explain to them that there are lots in municipalities. So, and we also found out that they have an attention span of about an hour and 15 minutes, and then you're done. Like it's time, right? So that's a good note for me to have. And yes, the deep geological repository, that was just information timelines. Good to know what's going on in our area municipalities. I also attended the JDSS flag raising of Black History Month, which was well received, not only by students, but other municipalities and reps from Southgate. So that was good. And again, random acts of kindness. People, when you make their day, they just smile, and that's nice to see. So, and Family Day, I think Councillor Fleet learned some new skills. It was a good day. It's something that council can do, and it felt good to be part of it. And kudos to you, Laura, and your staff, and Brandon for a day that when you see that facility packed like that with so many families, kids, parents, grandparents, and it was a good day. So I was pleased to see it. So, and now I'll ask staff if there's anything you'd like to share that may be happening or taking place before our next meeting. And I don't see any takers, no one online. All right, okay, good. All right, we'll move on. So item 14 is planning and other meetings. So the dates of these meetings are listed on this agenda and also on our town website. And if you take a look at 14.6, Parks, Recreation and Culture Advisory Committee, that on Wednesday, February 22nd, they are meeting at 6 p.m., not 7. And 14.9, the Saugeen Municipal Airport, their meeting is scheduled for March 29th rather than the 15th. And I think that's all for changes. Item 15, dates to remember and announcements. The next committee of the whole meeting is Monday, March 6th at 4 p.m. The next regular council meeting is Monday, March 20th at 4 p.m. And at this time, I'll ask if there's any notices of motion. Seeing none, we do not have a closed meeting, so I need a mover and seconder to adjourn our meeting at 6:02. Councillor Sackle and Councillor Hawking. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone.